Hi everyone, Comic Book Reviewer here, this time reviewing on issue 2 of Void Rivals. Now, as you know, Void Rivals is part of the Energon universe, which of course is written by Robert Kirkman, and the best way I would describe Void Rivals is saying, what if we took the idea of Transformers, Guardians of the Galaxy, and pretty much try to fuse it into something of our own. And the cover mainly has the main character, Derek, basically with his blaster, and his father looking on. And the story starts off, obviously, on the Scarred Ring, where we see how Derek is given a task to try and take down the enemy forces and have a winning advantage. So, of course, we kind of see how Derek meets up with his father, him saying, "Have you come to see me, old father?" "Derek, in a matter of moments, you will be launched as the greatest Argorian pilot in history. That is the only thing that has spared you from my wrath. Return with the same Starling record, or do not return at all." And I know his father's meant to seem harsh, but it's like what I say, if you're seen in a negative light by your parent, or seen as kind of like the failure in the family, they're not doing it to be nasty or mean, they just expect you to try and be a little more responsible, or try to get your act partly together. And you can tell right away that obviously it does affect him, but tries to carry on. And we see obviously he gets his ship ready to take launch, and of course mainly gets off from the Scarred Ring, but of course something happens, and of course we see right away something happens with the Scarred Ring, and we kind of learn more about the Argorians and the Sartonians, who are obviously meant to be Robert Kirkman's take on the Autobots and Decepticons, and more about their sort of history and cultures. And this is where we see how everything goes back from issue 1, where Dalek ends up meeting another Sartonian, and right away we see how they have to work together and try to sort out their differences. And right away we see how they get to work on the ship, they have to kind of make sure that there's no screw-ups and so forth. And we kind of see right away the Sartonian known as Solena kind of ends up taking things a little too personally. But of course we see how Darak has to be a little more motivated, and obviously helps her see the bigger picture. And obviously Darak is supposed to be Robert Kirkman's take on Optimus, and obviously Solena either being Elite 1 or a much more mauled version of Megatron. And we see how right away they mainly take off in their sort of newfound rocket, and of course they try to stay alive, but turns out something's following them, which is a giant sort of ship scavenging for materials and so forth. And Darak saying, "They're pulling us in. How much carnage does your blaster have? Maybe they're not hostile? Let's start with hello, or have any food?" And we see how they kind of get off their ship as soon as they make it inside, and turns out they end up coming face to face with a Transformer character from G1 known as Skolzoid, and of course leading up to issue 3. And I think my best thoughts about issue 2, it's okay, but it's definitely not one of the best. I think it's clear that Invincible is supposed to be Robert Kirkman's version of Superman, as well as the DC Marvel Universe. Void Rivals is his take on Transformers, as well as basically Guardians of the Galaxy. as Darak is obviously supposed to be Hot Rod or Optimus, his father's supposed to be Alpha Trion or so, and it's clear Robert Kirkman does have a habit of getting a little too motivated. I think it's like I say, it's alright to be inspired, motivated, as well as kind of having a interesting newfound idea. But if you're copying too much and it's kind of feeling like it's the same stuff that you've seen before, people are easily going to put two and two together and see that you're not really putting much of an effort with your own original concepts. It's an okay issue, not the greatest, but it definitely deserves a thumbs in the middle. Alright, not the best, but it's definitely clear Robert Kirkman has a habit of copy and pasting things without doing something new and original, something like what he did with Invincible by making it a little bit of his own. So, comic book reviewer here, signing out.